Have you ever worked so hard for something that you started wondering if the universe had simply forgotten you? Not because you were lazy, not because you stopped trying, but because every ounce of effort seemed to disappear into silence. Maybe that's the cruelest part of chasing a dream. Failure hurts, but nothing hurts more than feeling invisible. Every morning before the first light touched the hills, an old man walked to the edge of a dry field, carrying nothing but a small metal watering can. The ground was cracked, the wind carried dust instead of the scent of flowers, and there wasn't a single sign of life anywhere around him. Yet every single day, without fail, he knelt in the exact same place and slowly poured every drop of water onto the empty earth. The villagers laughed at first. They whispered that age had stolen his mind. Children pointed at him while their parents smiled with pity. As the years passed, the laughter disappeared, not because anyone understood him, but because they had grown used to seeing him. He became part of the landscape, like the old well in the center of the village or the mountains beyond the fields. Nobody questioned him anymore because nobody expected anything to change. But one autumn morning, a traveler named Ethan arrived in the village carrying something heavier than his backpack. He carried disappointment. Every dream he had ever chased had slipped through his fingers. Every plan had ended before it truly began. Watching others succeed had slowly convinced him that perhaps life simply chose certain people and quietly ignored everyone else. While wandering through the village, he noticed the old man watering the same empty patch of ground. There was no seed, no sprout, no tree, nothing. Yet the old man's face held a strange peace that Ethan had never seen before. It wasn't the smile of someone who had won. It was the smile of someone who no longer needed proof that he was moving forward. That single image stayed with Ethan all day. Before sunrise the next morning, curiosity pulled him back to the field. He watched from a distance as the old man repeated the same quiet ritual. The next day he returned again. Then the next. Weeks passed, yet nothing changed. The ground remained empty. The watering can emptied every morning. The old man never looked disappointed. Ethan slowly realized that the mystery was no longer the field. The mystery was the man. How could someone keep showing up every day without seeing results? Most people needed success to stay motivated. This man seemed to need only faith. As the days turned into months, Ethan stopped hiding behind the trees. He simply stood nearby in silence. They rarely spoke. They didn't need to. The silence itself became the lesson. For the first time in years, Ethan stopped thinking about how far behind he was. He stopped comparing his journey to strangers. Without noticing it, he began changing. His breathing became calmer. His mind became quieter. The pressure to become someone extraordinary slowly gave way to the simple desire to become someone consistent. One morning, just as the sun painted the horizon with soft shades of gold, Ethan realized something that startled him. The field looked exactly the same as it had on the first day, but he didn't. Somewhere between all those silent mornings, he had become more patient, more grateful, and strangely, happier. Maybe, he thought, the field wasn't empty after all. Maybe something had been growing the entire time, hidden beneath the surface where impatient eyes could never see it. Then on a cold winter morning, the old man walked toward the field, carrying his watering can as always. But when he reached the familiar spot, he stopped. He looked at the dry earth for a long moment, gently placed the watering can on the ground without pouring a single drop, turned around, and quietly walked away. Ethan stood frozen. It was the first morning in years that the ritual had ended differently. He didn't understand why. The next sunrise, the old man never returned. The villagers gathered quietly outside his small cottage that afternoon. The old man had passed away peacefully in his sleep. For the first time in years, the people who had laughed at him stood in complete silence. They realized they had spent years judging a man they had never truly tried to understand. The following morning, Ethan woke before sunrise without setting an alarm. Almost without thinking, he walked back to the field. The watering can still rested exactly where the old man had left it. He stared at it for a long time before finally picking it up. He walked to the same patch of dry earth and slowly poured every drop of water onto the ground. Not because he expected a miracle, not because he believed a tree would suddenly appear, but because something inside him told him that this simple act meant more than anyone could see. Days turned into weeks, and weeks became months. The villagers laughed again. This time they laughed at Ethan. They whispered that another fool had taken the old man's place. Ethan heard every word, yet none of it reached his heart. He had stopped looking for approval. He had stopped chasing quick results. Every morning he simply showed up, poured the water, and walked away with the same quiet peace he had once admired in the old man. One rainy evening, while helping clean the old man's tiny cottage, Ethan discovered a small wooden box hidden beneath the floorboards. Inside was an old leather journal worn by time. Its earliest pages were filled with pain, failure, disappointment, and dreams that had never come true. But as the years passed, the writing slowly changed. The old man no longer wrote about what he had lost. He wrote about who he was becoming. Ethan turned page after page until he reached the final entry. His hands trembled as he read the old man's final words. If you're reading this, you're probably searching for the tree. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but there was never a seed. I knew that from the very first day. The field never needed water. I did. Every morning I walked here because I was an impatient man who wanted life to change overnight. So I created one simple promise that I could keep every single day. While everyone else waited for success to change them, I let consistency change me. The greatest tree I ever grew was invisible. Its roots were discipline. Its trunk was patience. Its branches were hope. And its fruit was peace. Ethan slowly closed the journal as tears filled his eyes.